Right, KH750 gearbox. That's your main shaft, that's your counter shaft. Clutch goes on the end of there. So all of those parts from there, all the way along that line there, to the end, fit on that.
Yeah.
Okay? So main issue with these is from the factory, they were crap anyway. The shimming was bad on them.
Yeah.
So you could get a good one, you could get a bad one. No life expectancy on the gearbox at all on these. It was like 15 to 20,000 miles apparently.
Okay.
Which is total shite. But when you look at, you've got just in on that shaft, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 shims. The circlips as well, they're not factory circlips. They didn't have holes in them, they just had something you could just pinch them once to get them on because they're one use only circlips.
Right.
Okay, so they're all worn. You can see the brightness, the darkness. When you think about it, when you're looking for like a 0.003 of an inch gap in something, the chances of that and that all being the right thickness ain't going to happen. So hence the gears wobbling around. Your fingers on your gear shifter mechanism, they're fixed with this. There's nothing you can do with that. That's permanently fixed in the hole as such. Yeah.
Yeah.
It slides in there. You have that lock plate goes in there and holds it from coming in and out.
Okay.
So wherever these are in the neutral position is where they are. You can't odds that. Now you've got a burn mark here and a burn mark there, a burn mark there. They're not warm, but they're burnt, which means it isn't shimmed up right. It will stay in neutral and it will go in and out of gears, but if that finger, when you say you put it into first gear, yeah, you should still be able to put your feeler gauge either side.
Yeah.
So if it's tight on one side, you know the shimming's too much on one side of a gear or too less.
Yeah.
Okay. So what you got to do, you can buy all the new shims which I've bought. So on this one you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 shims. All of them being a thou out, one way or the other, 2 thou out, 3 thou out. It's never going to work unless you start from square one again.
Of course.
Buy all new shims. You could have worn gear faces, and then I found a website shows you exactly where to measure in each gear position and how much play you should have on everything. Then you may have to make, like it says on there, if you need to put a 2 thou shim in that side, put 1 thou in that side, or take something out of it, but you've got to equal it all out so it's working, so that, like, yes, it'll turn over in neutral. Clonk that into gear that way, which moves one of these sliding dogs, yeah. So that will sit in there. That's a 3 and a 3, so that's not right. So it'll be that one. So if you've got something with 3 holes in, 1, 2, 3, yeah.
Yeah.
You'd imagine that your 6 holes goes into that. It's all different. Oh, that one doesn't fit. Maybe it was that one. Yeah, that's 3 big dogs, so that is that one. Okay, but when that's hard up against that and your shimming's in there and it's moved across its rail on the gear selector, yeah, that's in there. If that's holding that too hard that way,
yeah,
it's going to burn the fork. Okay, so you have to take a shim out that side. Yeah, but until you've started with your basic shim kit, assembled it all and seen what you got, the most important thing is when it's all together you haven't got any gears clashing.
Right.
Yeah, because that will make a horrendous noise. Even if it's floating and just touching, it'll make a horrendous noise. So you have to set them up so that your gaps between the gears as such, when they're all assembled, like that goes in there. But when that gear goes next to that gear and it's assembled on the gearbox, you have a certain clearance between those dogs.
Right.
If that's too tight, you get any wander on the shaft at all, it's just doing that. It's just clicking on it, yeah? But that will make a horrendous noise. So it has to have adequate clearance there, in whatever position it's in on the gearbox. And it shows you how to go through it all, 1st to 5th gear, check all your measurements, But then you might get to a case of when it's in second gear, the fifth gear cog's clashing. When it's in fourth gear, the second gear cog might be clashing. So you've got to get a happy medium between everything.
Yeah.
It's a fiddly job, but unless you start with the basic shim kit that's all the right sizes, you don't know where you're at.
Yeah.
You'll never find it. When this was assembled, they'd had a spacer washer in here.
Okay.
According to all the drawings and everything I'd found, it never had one in there. It should have been, they had a 0.5 millimetre that side, 0.5 millimetre that side. It should be 1 millimetre that side.
Yeah.
So that'd be holding that too far that way. But that, I've cleaned it up a bit, had nicks on it. You could hear that rubbing on there really badly, and you can see the markings on there.
Yeah.
So that will be the outside of those cogs, that diameter there, which it is exactly. So that's obviously got a little bit of pickup on it.
Yeah.
So what we'll do is bung that in the vise. It's a very fine valve grinding paste. Spin it up and just touch it on that, and it will just face the edge off. So we know where we're at with that. The other thing that it's said to do when you build them, I've got all new bearings coming as well, is like that actually fits on there. With that on there, you have a spacer, you have a bearing, sorry. That bearing's completely at it. That goes on there, collar on there, that goes on there. Then you put your clutch basket on, do that nut up first before you start building the gear cluster.
Yeah.
And that pulls everything where it should be when you put it back in, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
So you haven't got any end float that way then. Yeah, just little tips and hints on how to build it. Well, gearboxes are, it looks very complicated when laid out like this, and there is a lot of it, but it's not that complicated realistically. You can only go in one place in each position of your gear tumbler barrel, that's that. Okay, so that's, you get a hook on there, pulls those pins round, changes gear wherever you are, yeah?
Yep.
Okay, so as they slide along, you have a locating pin. So that will be in, if you look at it, straight, that won't move all the time, that's changing those gears. And when you get to there, it pulls it over that way, goes in that groove, look, bang, 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 okay? Bang, 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 and goes back to there. So that's how that works. That rotates and pulls your forks left and right.
Yeah.
Okay, and they sit in your sliders. It's all very dirty and noisy, but that pulls your gears in and out in conjunction with each other. Again, got to check these. They go in there. Check those for any flat spots. I actually see them quite good. Just you have to have tolerance in there, otherwise it will just jam itself up. You need tolerance in there. But if these have got any flat spots, which they don't seem to have, then you need to get new ones of those. They have lock tabs on them when it's done up tight. The factory circlips, when I get them, only go on one way.
Right.
They have a rounded edge and a sharp edge. Okay, so these aren't genuine. So they were probably all sharp edged, and that's what's worn off of everything.
Yeah.
So you need to get the right ones of those. Like I say, all the shims, and I think those 3 bearings, I had to get one off of eBay, all came to about £200. So it's not the end of the world.
Yeah.
You can't do anything about the shafts being worn because you can't get them anymore. These bronze thrust washers you can't get anymore.
Right.
Right, they should be 1 millimetre. I haven't actually measured them yet because if you can't get them, you can't get them. I'll just try one. They're 40 thou, which is a little bit over, so they're not actually worn. So the one that I couldn't get, yeah, that one's bang on 39. That one's a little bit larger. So the ones I can't get measure up okay,
Yeah.
which is good. So then you assemble it all using old circlips because the new ones that come in are one use only.
Yeah.
But what I'll do is sit there and just face them off. You know they're the right size because they fit in the groove, yeah?
Mm.
They're a little bit loose, but it's better than being too tight. So just rub them down, a bit of sandpaper on the faceplate, just take any sharp edges off them. Then you can assemble, check, take it all apart again and put your new one use only circlips in. So that's about as far as I've got until plenty of new parts turn up.
Are you confident by doing all these that I'll get rid of the noise?
There's nothing else in that can make a noise, so it has to work. like I say, that's the noisy one. See, like you were saying, why have 4 thrust washers on there when you could make it out of one?
It just seems a bit strange, doesn't it?
And I thought these bearings were too short because you get on end float on them, but apparently that's correct.
Right.
We put that in there, seat that in its bearing hole. That's in its bearing hole.
God.
Yeah.
That's not. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
No, that's had it. So try the other one. You've got centre bearing. That has to have the gear on the end. So that was the one that was C solid.
Yeah.
So that's all was in wrong as well. Again, not the quietest thing in the world, that, but let's get that in properly. Hold on. But a lot quieter than that. Hear it? It starts really rumbling. So that's with nothing else on it. If it's doing that and making a noise, you know the bearings are shot.
Yeah.
Get all the new bearings, soak them in, I'll oil them properly. You leave them in a tub of oil for an hour or two just to make sure they are well loaded with oil. It's a messy job, but somebody's got to do it.
That's the spirit.
But then you know where you're starting from. You know, that one's always had that much end float on it, which might be correct. It could be these are so far out. So until I get all the right shims, but that will always go, that end float, because your clutch basket is pulling it that way when you do it up. But when you push it that way, it sounds even worse. So realistically, before you even start putting any of that together, get that so it's not noisy. Like I say, these outer shells are oversized. Very slight play in them, but I can't get them. You can't get them anywhere. So I'm hoping that the new roller bearings, when they come, we'll just take that little tiny bit of slack out of them. It's hard, it's minuscule, but you got to remember this thing revs to like 15,000 revs or something stupid.
Yeah.
So it's got to be. I mean, that's no matter what you do with that.
Yeah.
It's just going to make a horrible noise wherever you are. I can feel that binding every now and again. So there, you got to clean all the teeth out.
You can hear it, can't you?
Oh yeah, sorry, it's broken. So that's where we're at really till we get all the new parts. Hopefully, well, I don't think I'll be here before I go on holiday, but if not, it's a good job to come back to, isn't it?
That's it.